Hey! I never know how to start these. Like, I never know how to, this is all BN. Like, I usually, like, just mumble. Fucking mumble. Sometimes mumbling is important. You might not have something to say, but you want to be heard. So just mumble. I just want to tell you, I used to know a guy in Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina, that mumbled every single word he said. You'd be like, "Hey man, how you doing? I'm all right, man." And he ended up being a doctor. I couldn't believe it. I digress. Thanks for coming back. On this week's episode, I gotta tell you a little story first. So back in the day, 2004, 2005, somewhere around there, maybe 2003, I don't know, I was drunk. I played in the band out of Surf City, North Carolina. The band was pretty popular. Like, we would go to Jacksonville, and we would have nice big crowds. We opened for countless national acts. It was just a great band. One day I decided I needed to leave. I won't go into detail. I needed to leave. But during my time there was this guy. I didn't really understand what heavy drugs were at that point. Like, I knew what they were, but I'd never really been around them. And this is the first interaction I had with, like, hard drugs. And it's because this person was using them. The dude used to he'd, like, dance to the music. He had this march thing that he would do, and he was on point. The thing about this guy, when he went with us to shows, everybody loved him. He was the hype man. He would just make the most laziest person in the world get up, move, buy a CD. We got munchies for on the way home. Greatest person to have traveling with you in a band. I left that band, and I've wondered about this guy. Julia Rogers gave me a couple names. One of them was tonight's guest, Shannon Gilmore. I'll say it in the podcast, but honestly, I didn't think about it being him. Honestly, I thought it was going to be a girl, and I'll apologize every time I say that. But the day before, I gave him a call, and we talked because somebody cued me in that it was a guy, and then the name Shannon Gilmore popped in my head. I never knew how much I wanted to reconnect with somebody this bad until I reconnected with Shannon. To see the change in life that he's given himself, his hard work as he's put into himself to be the best version of himself, what he's done with his life, he'll talk about. Couldn't be prouder of him. The dude, he's just a badass. All right? He's just a badass. Ladies and gentlemen, Shannon Gilmore. Leadway that I give everybody else. Normally it's like 10 minutes in and we start talking and they're like, and I ask them a question, like, when are we going to start? I'm like, we started like 20 minutes ago, dude.
Yeah.
I was thinking about like having you on, and I started thinking about like old school shit and like just about like, you know, the people we both know, and like the anger I hold for a few. And, like, is it, like, you know, you have to go back and forth. Like, is this legit? Is this something that is amends? Or is this something that I can forgive?
I mean, 9 times out of 10, if I have a resentment towards somebody, most of the time I owe them an amends.
You think?
Most of the time, man. When I went through my amends process, my 8th and 9th step, there were very few amends that I owed that I didn't have a resentment attached to it, you know, and I had to deal with it. So it was difficult to look at my part, even if their part was way bigger. Like, even if my part was just like, hey man, like, I was choosing to be around those people. I could have removed myself at any time. Even if that was my part, that I was choosing to be there, I put myself in that situation, that is my part. I knew it was some, can I cuss?
Yeah.
I knew it was some fuck shit, and I stayed anyway, and then the fuck shit happened, and then I got a resentment. But it's like, what did I expect? But I kept myself in this really toxic, unhealthy situation with people that I really shouldn't have been around, and then some bad stuff happens and I get resentful. How could they take that shit from me? Or how could that happen? And it's like, well, dude, look at the people we were around, and it's like, so, even like toward like some of my biggest amends, man, like were my family, and it's like I had resentments towards my father for, when my brother died. So my brother Alex, do you remember when that were we friends when Alex passed?
I think he what year did he pass away?
So that was 95.
Oh, it was after that. I met you in 2001 or 2.
Yeah, so Gary, so he introduced us to butane, huffing butane, and him and some other guy, man, and we were a bunch of kids, and we didn't know no better. Mm-hmm. And it ended up killing my brother Alex. Me and Alex were huffing butane together, and then he ended up dying from it. And I was 15, man. He was 16. And so when that happened, I went off the deep end. Yeah. And like my addiction took hold, and it was ridiculous, honestly. Like I did everything I could to try to kill myself, and almost succeeded. But anyway, my father, because of that, after Alex died, and I went, full on into my addiction, and then my mom and dad are just like having to deal with that. They just dealt with their son dying, their other son, and now I'm trying to kill myself with using, and so there was so much anger and fear from them towards me because of how I was living, and it's like, so one night there was a significant, I had 2 major resentments towards my father. One was, when I was, when I was 16, I got in this really bad car wreck, and I got a settlement, and they set it up into like installments because they knew that I, wasn't in any position to have that kind of money.
Yeah.
And so, but I caught some felony charges when I was 16, and I had this criminal defense attorney, and it cost me like $6 or $7 grand. And my first check when I turned 18, was supposed to pay that guy. Uh-huh. And I didn't know this at the time, but when I turned 18, that first check came. They took the check and put it in their pocket and never paid the attorney. And we were on really hard times. Like my dad was painting houses. Like it was some really tough times. But he lied to me, and I was under this impression that he had paid this attorney with this money until years later I went to retain that same attorney, and he was like, "Hey, you never paid us from the first one." And I had no idea, dude. And so like I called my dad, and he just like he basically made me feel like I owed him that money. That was his money. And it was just a really like weird situation. Money makes people act funny.
Yeah, it does.
I would have loved that they would have asked me, "Hey, look, the family needs this money," but I wouldn't have never given it to them. Like I was so strung out, they'd have never got it. But I lied to myself and was like, if they would have just asked me, I would have given it to them. But that's not true. I know I wouldn't have. So I had a resentment towards them for that. And then one night he was really drunk, and we got into a fight, a physical altercation, and he like slammed my head into a tree and told me that it should have been me and not my brother. Mm. And he was really drunk, man. And he was hurting really bad, and it's like
pain can make you say some things.
Yeah, and my brother wasn't like, and dude, like the fact that my brother Alex died from this shit and I didn't is bizarre, because he was not an addict, man. Like he wasn't like me, dude. He was responsible. He had a job. He was productive. He made friends easy. Like he was like, and then there was me who was like didn't want to go to school, didn't want to work. All I wanted to do was get fucked up, and then there was Alex, a good fucking kid. And it was just some horrible stuff. It was just like no one had ever heard of it. And it was a fluke, dude. And it killed my brother. And it's like, for a long time, I was like, why? Why would that happen? I'd like denounce God. When Alex died, I was like, there's no God. There's like, this is bullshit. Everything's bullshit. And I got a story for you, man. So that was so in my 8th step and my 9th step, like I had to let go of those resentments, towards my father. He was doing the best he could, man. He was going through his own stuff, and almost all of my resentments, I had to like realize that it's like, man, like they were navigating life the best they could, and then I can own my part and make those amends, which is so important for us, people like us. And
it's funny how a lot of resentments come from the not understanding how somebody mourns and not understanding how somebody deals with loss. That had to be.
And not understanding my actions and how they, like my words and my actions, the effect that they have on other people. And then when they react to me, I'm like, fuck you.
Right.
How fucking dare you? But it's like, look what I just did to them, or said to them. So, I got to tell this story before I forget, man. This is like an amazing, like God moment that happened. So like I denounced God when my brother died. I really did. Like I didn't believe in God. I was like, there can't be a God. Like this is, to take a 15-year-old kid, like a good kid, for no reason, man. It was very traumatic.
I remember at a campfire out at the band room we had one night, you went off on it. Like we were all fucking out of our minds. And I remember one night you were like, because I was like, I don't really, my grandfather was a preacher and Kane was talking about his stuff. And then I remember you just went off on it. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. I think that was the night I actually woke up in somebody's truck and I had like pissed all over myself. I woke up and I thought I fell in a mud puddle.
I forgot all about that.
I'm like looking around. I'm like, did I fall in a fucking mud puddle? And the girl I was with, she was like, Shannon, you pissed yourself. And I was like, oh my God. I had never done that before, Like
I did all the time.
Alcohol was really taking over. I did a lot of drugs, man, and I fell in love with all of them. But alcohol was one of my favorites. I drank every day. It was consistent. It was reliable. The dope man on the corner. There's no quality control there. You go to a liquor store and get a bottle. You know what you're getting.
Oh yeah,
every time. So I drank every day. But man, fast forward, I had a few years clean, and I was at my home group, and we were sitting on the front porch, front steps of this church. And I was talking to this newcomer, this guy that was just starting to come around, and I had got long hair, and he was asking me if I surf. I was like, yeah, I surf. And he was like, where do you surf at? And I was like, I said, I started surfing in Surf City, Topsail Beach. I said, but man, I've surfed all over the world, and he said, Topsail Beach. He said, man, did you ever hear about that kid under the fishing pier? He was huffing butane gas and he died from huffing gas. Swear to God, never met this kid, never seen him before. Out of the blue comes this question. And I said, I didn't know what to say. And I was like, that was my brother, man. And he says, let me tell you something. He said, me and my little brother were huffing butane, and we read about that shit in the paper. He said, and after we read about it, we never touched it again. And I was like, it was like this spiritual awakening where I was like, holy shit. Like, how many other people read that article? How many other people were getting involved with inhalants and that didn't know the dangers of it either? And God used my brother as a tool to get that word out to save however many people from it, Crazy, right?
Insane, man. I mean, it's such a small world. I mean, just me and you sitting here right now.
I know it.
Small world.
I had no idea when Julia made the introduction. I had no idea it was you.
I had no idea it was you
until you asked.
It did ring because Gary always called you and Dee Dee always called you by your first and last name. Always.
Yeah.
So whenever I used to think, I used to remember we were practicing, you'd be dancing that march dance you did.
Yeah, man.
And I remember that. And then I remember there was a bunch of firsts in my life that you were there for.
Hell yeah.
I mean, looking back, none of them were good.
Yeah, but you know what though, man? It's no regrets, man.
I don't even know if you remember this. It was one night we were all at the band room, and you and I'll just say first initials, G and J, just disappeared. And it was just the four of us. And I'm like, where'd y'all go? Where'd you go? And you're gone for like 30 minutes and y'all came back and y'all were like just everywhere, bouncing off the walls. And I'm like, what's going on? And then like, come on, we're getting in the car. And then we go over to some house. And it was the first time like I ever saw a certain drug. And I was like, all right, let's do that. And then you and Jay were like, get the fuck out of here. Like, you don't need any. And I was so pissed. I was so pissed. I was so mad. And like, I don't even know the other dude that was there. It was some dude, some like kid. He was like younger than us, missing a bunch of teeth, black dude, probably about our age, a little bit younger.
It's probably, now I think I know who you're talking about, and he's actually clean.
Good.
Yeah, he his mom had called me, no, I'm sorry, his brother called me and says, look, man, his nickname, his street name was Wu-Tang. He was like, look, man, Wu-Tang overdosed, and he's having a hard time. And he wasn't shooting dope. He was just like, not just, but he was doing coke, but they're putting fentanyl on everything.
Yeah.
And he got a hold of some bad coke with some fentanyl in it and overdosed twice. And so I went and picked him up from his house out in off of Union Bethel Road, and back around the way. And I took him to a meeting. He had never been to a meeting. I paid for him to get into a recovery house, and he was doing good for about 6 months. Not quite, man. Maybe 3 or 4 months. And he left, and he fucked up and started using again. And then about 6 months later, dude, he came back. We got him back into another recovery house, and I think he's about to pick up 2 years, man. He's got like 18 months or
That's
2 years.
Awesome, man.
Fucking doing great, man. Working at Mellow Mushroom. Kid grew up on the street.
Yeah.
Never had a legit job, like worked in Bobby's, auto body shop and was selling, drugs for Bobby. And like, it was like, he was brought up on the street, lived on the street. And now he's like living this productive, like, you see the program just working for, like, just taking a piece of shit individual like I was, like he was, and just like shaping them into this like productive human being, dude. To watch, I love it, man.
It's a beautiful thing to see. And that when I figured out it was you, and it hit me like 10 minutes before we talked on the phone. I was just like, yeah, shit. And I went back and I Facebook stalked you. And I was just like, I've been sitting there thinking that it was a lady. Sorry.
That's okay.
But then I looked at your face, and there was a picture of you smiling in there. And I remember I saw your eyes. I'm like, there's no way. He looks completely different. But I can still see like that's got to be him. So I called. And then you called me back, and I was just like, is this the Shannon? And, dude, it was like, it sent me down. Like, I was telling my wife about all that stuff, but I digress. It started making me feel like I'm not sure. Like, and there was a bunch of stuff, like, after that, even after I moved away. Like, I had, like, G down to my wedding. Like, completely never paid my parents for the tux, and that we were hard on cash at that point. Like, just, like, a bunch of things. I'm just like, you know what, man? Like, maybe one day before I die, like, I'll be cool to say, hey, look, let's just catch up. But right now, every time I think about everything there, that really, it's my fault that like it was my decision to leave and go play with somebody else. It was my decision. Now the reasons I left were for the best reasons, but it also set me down a deeper path of addiction, knowing that these were like my brothers. And I was doing it too because I knew that I was slowly killing myself, and it was getting worse.
And they still are, dude. I mean, the only one that I know that's doing good is Jay. Jay's doing good. I met up with him out in Jacksonville.
And he's down in Florida.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yep.
He's down in Florida, and dude, he's got moobs now. Like, like life's doing well when you're like middle aged with moobs.
Hell yeah.
Like perky nipple moobs, and he's always not wearing a shirt.
Oh, that's fucking great. Zero fucks given.
Yeah. Like it was just like, it hurts my heart, man. Like
that G is still struggling with that stuff, and it's like, and I don't. Do you know Bobby?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I picked him up. I picked him up and took him to a meeting a few weeks, about a month ago, and he had just gotten out of jail, some charges, and they got him on maintenance right now. He's going to IOP, and they got him on maintenance, cool. and which is great. He's not shooting dope or like doing any hard drugs, but it's like, man, like maintenance is such a trap sometimes for people. And it's like, there's no like mandatory detox off of it. And people get on it and stay on it. And it's bad for your kidneys. It's bad for your liver. And then it's like the withdrawal from these, medications is worse than fentanyl. It's worse than heroin. It's worse than pills. And it's like, it's tough, man. Like I'm an advocate for complete abstinence. I really am, and only because of the freedom that I've been afforded because of it. And it, and then there's the part where it's like, the government, like Purdue Pharma created this, opioid epidemic, and they lost this fucking humongous class action lawsuit because of it, and had to pay out, millions and millions of dollars. And then they have this funding set aside now through Purdue Pharma for like rehab centers and detoxes and stuff like that. But and it's lots of money that can be given to like help, with addiction.
Yeah.
But the only way that these companies, the rehabs and detoxes, the only way they can get that funding is if they administer maintenance.
Yeah.
And guess who makes the maintenance? Purdue Pharma. So it's like they lose all of this money because of the opioid epidemic. They create a new drug to replace methadone that's been around for centuries, which is a terrible drug also. Mm-hmm. Terrible. Gets in your marrow, everything. But so then they create Suboxone, Subutex, or whatever to like, and it's like, and then the parents, like nobody knows what the fuck to do because it's an epidemic. Like everybody's dying from this stuff, and it's like, what do we do? Well, there's a safer alternative. You put your kid on this, and they, it's a monitored dose and it's regulated and you know what you're getting, and I get it. It's safer, man. But the problem is the disease is never addressed. No. Like the problem is never addressed. It's still being medicated by a substance. And when you take them off that substance, one or two things is going to happen, man. They're either going to like go back to illicit drugs or they're going to come to a meeting or do something, but most of the time, the withdrawal is so painful and so lengthy, man. Like I'm talking about, like you get like post-acute withdrawal, like months and months later. Like it's terrible, man.
Yeah.
So
I think I'm completely against pharmaceuticals and lab created medicines, except like I've always had a bad problem with anxiety and depression. Always. Like I took like SSRIs and anti-anxiety meds and like Adderall type stuff most of my life.
Yeah.
The Adderall type stuff and the antidepressants were a reason that my drinking really got out of hand, which always led to me doing something else.
Yeah, right.
And when I got sober and when I got clean, I was that. I was nothing. Nothing. About a year and a half into it, after I met my wife and I found that I was going to be a dad at 40, I would have been, she was going to be born. Wow. And I'm like, how the fuck am I going to do this? Like karma's going to come back. Like my body, I've done so much. And I just went down this huge I got to be careful talking about it because I'll go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But it got so bad that like, I tried to go back on the antidepressants and, the anti-anxiety stuff, and I was like, I want the non-narcotics, please, and it just made things worse. So then I tried the narcotic ones, and it made things even worse, and I started, like, for the first time, wanting to go drink, like, oh, I've got this handled, man, this is good, this is all bullshit, and then I got off of those for about 4 months, and then I'm like, I got to do something because I'm depressed. I have this baby here. I've got this amazing lady that really just, I've got these 2 amazing stepsons. I don't want them to know that Billy at all. So, and I've talked about it here, is like, that's when I was just like, a buddy of mine that I still have is a huge pothead. It was like, go smoke weed. I'm like, I don't want to smoke weed. I never really dug smoking weed.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it.
Right.
So then he went home to Michigan and came back with like the CBD THC gummies. It's like 80% CBD and like, 10, 15% THC. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. And my wife was just like, it's natural. You should try it. And she cut them up into like whatever. So it's little tiny till things, but she holds on to them.
Yeah.
And if I have like a bad anxiety attack, she'll give me one of those. Yep. And then it's worked better than any lab created thing.
I'm an advocate for like, if I could smoke weed, I would, like,
but I can't.
But I can't. But I'm an advocate for pot, man. I think there's some really good uses for THC for people who like, but it all like, but also like there's literature, I'm in a 12-step fellowship and there's literature in our fellowship where it talks about like in times of illness, and it talks about like, we're not martyrs, like, we don't have to suffer.
Right.
And it's like, but it talks about that, like somebody else holding it and administering it. Yeah. But it also talks about like how as addicts, we can manufacture pain or anxiety. So I had cut my hands on a table saw. This is a quick story, man.
Shit.
Yeah, I almost cut my fingertips off.
My old bass playing is like, oh God, no.
And they rushed me to the hospital. My hand had a heartbeat. They shot me up with Dilaudid in the hospital. And I secretly, when they shot me up with the Dilaudid, I had a few years clean, man.
Yeah. And
they hit me with the Dilaudid, and I didn't get high. It did what it was supposed to do and took away the pain. Like, that's what they're supposed to do. When you're in pain, it takes away the pain. You don't feel a euphoric feeling from it. And so when they hit me with it and I didn't get high, I was like secretly kind of bummed out, and then they prescribed me these 5 milligram Percocets to take over the course of the next week,
right,
while my hand healed. So there were the 5 milligram perks, and I was supposed to take 1 to 2 every 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
I was taking 1 every 6 to 8. My wife was holding them, and I have to tell you that as soon as it hit my stomach, I was like, I felt it, like I felt that little head change, and so it talks about that in the book too. It talks about how like our bodies or our minds don't know the difference between like illicit drugs or like drugs that are prescribed. Like, so our bodies have this reaction without our permission. Our minds, it hits these receptors without our permission, and it's like it kind of lights those bulbs up, and it's like, so like day three came along. And my hand didn't hurt anymore. I woke up that morning and I went to work, and on the way home, I knew I had a bottle full of pills and that my wife had. And I'm sitting there and I said, man, I can go ask her for one and she will not question me. She knows that I about cut my friggin' fingertips off. I know she'll give me one, but I don't need one. And I'm like sitting in my truck going through these thoughts, man. Like, do I ask her? What am I going to do? Like, and it was like, at this point, there was the line in the sand. It was like, if I ask for one more, I just got high. Up until that point, I was like treating pain, legit treating pain that I was in, but I was no longer in that pain, and I had to make a decision. So I called my sponsor's sponsor, my grand sponsor. I called Paul and I said, "Hey man, like this is what I'm thinking. Like I don't know what to do." And he said, "Hey man, stay on the phone with me. Go inside and get those pills from your wife." So I'm on the phone with Paul. I walk in. I said, "Babe, where are the pills?" And she got him out, and I was like, all right. I was like, I got the pills, And I was like, what do I do? He said, go to the fucking bathroom and flush them, man. He was like, while you're on the phone with me, flush them down the toilet. And I flushed them down the toilet, and I breathed a sigh of relief. But I'm going to tell you, man, for the next like 30 or 60 days, my fucking disease was all over me.
Yeah.
Like it had woken that fucking thing back up that had been arrested and asleep for so long, dude, that I was just like, I had to like really recommit to like a meeting every day, working steps, like really hardcore in it, because I almost relapsed from that. So lesson learned, bro. Like, I'm gonna have to be fucking dying before I take something else like that again.
When my cancer surgery happened, they gave me the same stuff.
You had cancer.
Yeah, well, it was melanoma
okay,
but it had spread just a little bit. So this tattoo actually used to go down to here, but they had to like cinch everything. It's been 4 years now, I think.
Holy cow!
Yeah, it was just after Tilly was born, so this October will be 5 years cancer free. I think it's been 3 years since I've been checked because insurance.
Yeah.
Fucked me, but they gave me like I think it was the same thing, a little 5 milligrams, and they were like, I would take them, and the moment I met my wife and we were sitting down smoking cigarettes downtown, I call it the dead people bench because it was the Marine Memorial.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. But it was on the 3rd. It was on February or June 3rd. And we were sitting down there smoking cigarettes. The first thing I did, like, I just started vomiting about my addiction, letting her know, like, if this isn't something you're interested in or whatever. And we took it slow, and
it's so important.
We started to take it slow, and then it was like head over heels pretty quick.
Yeah, that's how we do it, man.
That's how
all or nothing,
do it,
man.
Yeah, and luckily now, like, we've never yelled at each other, we've never raised our voice at each other. Wow. I digress. Like, even now, if I have that anxiety, if I have that like problem, like it was a couple weeks ago, I thought I was going to lose my job. Like, I need that job. That job. I'm 45 years old. My lighting skills. I can't go out and tour comedy. Everything that made my resume amazing is now being done with newer technology and younger people that I'll never be able to learn to compete with. So I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do? That set me down a spiral. Started hyperventilating. I was like, do you want one or anything? I was like, no, not yet. And we sat down, and she was just sitting there, like, breathing with me. Like, yeah, we did that for like 20 minutes.
Hell yeah.
It was cool. And then I have gabapentin is what they gave me for non-narcotic
I take
anxiety.
that for back pain.
Yeah, and I've got nerve stuff all in my... Anyway, what is your sober date?
June 16th, 2013. Yeah. Yeah, man.
Dude.
So I had almost... So it's funny you started talking about anxiety. I had almost a year clean before... So I had relapsed for 5 days before the June 16th date. But I had almost a year, dude, and I was done. Yeah. But I was having these, and I don't have anxiety. I've never suffered from depression or anxiety, but I was having this physical, like, panic disorder where my body, it was weird, man. Like, my heart would start beating out of my chest, and a lot of, and like, I would pass out. And like wake up, and the first time it happened, I passed out, and I woke up in an ambulance, and my body was like hyperthermic, and they had heat blankets on me trying to get my core temperature back up. Like, it was bizarre, man. And they thought that I was on drugs, man, and I was living in a recovery house, and everybody thought I was using, and I wasn't, man. And it was like at least 2 or 3 times a week. I mean, it would wake me up out of my sleep. I'd wake up, and my heart would just be beating, and like my face would get high, and I'd pass out, man, and I'd wake up and just be freezing, and like I didn't know what was happening, so I called my sponsor, and I was like, look, man, like, I got to take something. Like, I don't know what to do. This has never happened to me before. And so I went to this place in Wilmington that helps, people who don't have a whole lot of money and stuff like that. And so I went there, and the doctor that I was seeing, she was like, look, you've got to go on something, so I'm going to give you this, like, a low-level benzo, something like the yellow Klonopins, and she was like, just take them as needed, don't take them every day, take them as needed. And I called my sponsor, and I was like, look, this is what they're suggesting. I was like, I don't know what to do. I was like, I've never liked benzos. That was one of the drugs. I said I like all drugs. That was one of the drugs I never liked. I never liked benzos because they'd make me tired, and I'd want to go to sleep, and I could never, like, push through it and, like, have fun on them. I'd always pass out. So I was like, I really believed that I'm going to be able to take these as prescribed and deal with this disorder. And Billy, within a month, I started to really like them.
Mm-hmm.
I doubled my prescription. I started giving them away to other people. I started selling them.
Mm-hmm.
And then like it was about, I had almost a year clean, man. And this happened. And I ended up at a bar this girl was at my house. She got kicked out of her recovery house because I was giving them to her, and she popped dirty for a drug test. And she's like, I need a place to stay. And she came over, and we both ate too many of them and ended up at a bar, got drunk, found some other drugs that night. 5 days later, no sleep, no food. I had caught another charge for stealing from JCPenney or some dumb shit.
Oh, yeah, good. Good choice.
Yeah, right. And
them Ozods ain't cheap, bro.
I'm telling you, I was stealing like baby clothes from my drug dealer's kids, some like dumb shit. And so I had a warrant for my arrest, and I came back and I called my boss, and I had a check waiting for me, and I went and picked my check up, and I gave the check to my sponsor, and I went to the magistrate, and I turned myself in, and it was just like shoplifting, I went and turned myself in. And I'm a 3-time convicted felon, man. I've been to prison twice, spent like 2 years in prison. I spent 4 years at a therapeutic community in Durham.
Damn.
Yeah, dude, probably about 8 years of my life have been spent like incarcerated or in like a court mandated program. And so I'd never turned myself in before, and I was like, I was really in it to win it,
Mm-hmm.
And then that Klonopin, man, like what I was talking about before, is like our brains, our bodies don't know the difference, man. And it's like I really started to like them and I didn't see it. It was so gradual, it was so gradual, man. And then after I turned myself in, bonded myself out with my paycheck, and I've been clean ever since, man. And it's like, the 12-step fellowship that I'm a part of, I'll keep it anonymous just because,
right.
I don't want to, they say you're supposed to, maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films.
Right.
And the reason for that is that if I say I'm a part of this certain 12-step fellowship, and then I go out and use, then other people that see the film or the podcast, they'll say, see, that Shannon got high again, that 12-step stuff doesn't work. And so it's like,
that makes me irate
yeah.
when that's what I love about this show is everybody does stuff differently.
Yeah, 100%.
Everybody, I know people that are that haven't used heroin in 5-6 years, but every now and then will drink a beer or they'll still smoke weed.
We're all different, man.
We're all different, man.
100%.
And whatever keeps you alive and being the best version of yourself, that's all.
I've got I got a guy that works for me, man. Him and his father, I got caught manufacturing meth out in Florida, and I met him in the program, and he came to work for me, and I was his mentor, man, for 2 or 3 years. I taught him a bunch of trades, and now he's a subcontractor for me, doing it. He's got his own insurance.
Nice.
He's doing great. But about 2 years into our relationship, him working for me, and he's in the program and all that good stuff, we go on a surf trip to Nicaragua, and we surf all day, and we get back to the little restaurant area, and I got other friends there that aren't in the program, and they drink and smoke weed and whatever. I don't, it doesn't bother me. Do what you do, man.
Yeah.
Not my gig, whatever. But Cameron comes up to me and he says, I don't know how to tell you this. I've been wanting to tell you for a long time. He said, but I'm drinking, man, and I'm smoking pot. And I said, well, and so the girl that he met, she smoked weed, and I was it worried me a little when he got together with her. I could kind of thought that was going to happen. And what I said to him is, I said, Cameron, I was I love you, man. I was no judgment, and I said, if it's working for you and you're not out shooting meth or smoking crack or shooting dope, I was then keep doing it. I said, if it's working for you and you're maintaining a healthy marriage and taking care of the kids and coming to work every day, I was I don't care what you do, buddy. That I love you no matter what. I said, but please promise me, man. I said, if in any time it stops working for you, or if your brain starts thinking about other stuff and you get drunk one night and you're thinking some crazy stuff,
holla.
I said, yeah, call me, man. I said, if it's working for you, keep doing it. If it stops working for you, fucking do something different, dude. I was don't just keep trudging down the path thinking you're going to be okay. I was I don't want to see you not, and so, and it's been, God, man, it's been 2 years, and he shows up for work every day. He's happy. He does it, and he suffers from like crippling anxiety, man. So, like, is he self-medicating? Probably. You know, but whatever, dude. Like, it's none of my business, man. I love him no matter what.
It's one of those things, man. It's like I know what resources are there for me. Like, I never did the steps. I had a sponsor for like 2 weeks when I first got sober, and he was just like, man, you're not calling me, you're out. I'm like, all right. And like, if I have a bad, like when my mom was diagnosed with terminal leukemia, like I thought, I always said to myself, like, if one of my parents passes away, that's going to be what takes me out. But she was given 3 months to live, and she's been here for almost 2 years now, maybe a little over 3 years.
Wow.
Somewhere around there. And like, modern medicine for her has been wonderful. But like I go to meetings to pick up, like just to show the newcomer that it can work. I'm not hiding the fact, I don't go and I'm not like, I don't ever come to meetings except to pick up. Like I'd say, like, this is going to work for you if you allow it to, and you can put in the work. I'm right there and promoting it. Because that's where you are.
Hell yeah.
Damn right. You're not going to be like, I'm not going to walk in and be like, hey, I just want to show you could do this without doing anything. And it's like, since I started this show, I'm noticing more and more, because I have to be on social media. I hate social media. But I have to be on it to, like, TikTok especially, to promote this.
Sure.
And there's a huge, amazing recovery community on TikTok.
Wow.
Like, fantastic community on TikTok. But there's also some people that just slam the fellowships. And I'm like, this, and I always comment, like with this show's page, like I'm like, you can have one experience. That doesn't mean that somebody else is going to have that experience.
This is the only thing that's worked for me, man.
Yeah.
Like I've never, like relationships, like 4 years in a therapeutic community, this behavior modification didn't work, like prison time, jail, none of that, rehabs, countless detoxes or rehabs, none of that stuff worked. This is what I believe, dude. Like, and I go on these like H&I panels. I bring meetings into like rehabs and detoxes where people can't get out.
I used to do those all the time.
I go to the jail once a week or the prison. I go to the prison once a week, and sponsoring a guy in prison right now. But what I always say is, like, I don't believe, like, the gospel according to Shannon. Like, I don't believe, this ain't some 12-step stuff. It's not in the book. But I believe whatever you fully can commit yourself to, whatever it takes a commitment, and whatever you're willing to commit yourself to, I believe will work for you. I was not willing to fully commit myself to church or religion or any other type of spiritual path or a relationship. Like, I just wasn't, and I identified with other recovering people in the fellowship, because there's a difference. There's the fellowship and then the program, but I identified with the people in the fellowship, and they made me feel safe, So it was like, I was able to restructure my friend group, which was super important for me, leaving those old friends right where they were. It's like, I love them. We have history, but that we don't serve each other anymore. But
did you have any problem cutting people off?
Nah, man, not really. It would be like they would call me like, "Hey, you want to come over?" I'm like, "Nah, man. You want to come to a meeting?" They're like, "Nah, man." So it's like, it's a mutual thing. But you were scaring them away. I was like, let's see how close we are. But I'm gonna tell you something, man. My wife's uncle shot dope for years. Met his wife at the methadone clinic. She was his methadone nurse. Helped him come and wean off of methadone, and he relapsed one time in like the 30 years they were married, and it was in the very, very beginning. But she was, I hate to say it, she was his higher power. He committed his life to her and to their marriage, and that was what was important to him. And every now and then they go out, he'd have a drink at a social event, but it never plagued him again. You know what I mean? So it was like that worked for him. Like, was he still like disease riddled with self-centeredness and crazy as hell? Yes. Like, the dude was fucking batshit. I love him. He's still alive.
I understand where he's at.
I love him, but it's like I believe that if we don't have like a spiritual path, something to like really keep us centered, man, within ourselves, that is difficult. It's difficult to stay. And I'm not saying that it's not possible. I'm just saying it wasn't possible for me to stay clean without some type of like commitment that I did,
commitment,
throughout
structure,
my life.
accountability.
Damn right, man.
And service.
Yep, service is so important.
Man, and I admire, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, I admire those of you who have been able to dedicate and put in the work and also the service for it. Like I mean, we have a great recovery community in this town.
That's amazing.
I couldn't get into it because of my anxiety. Like, I went to one meeting and it was just like, made me feel very uncomfortable. And you could tell, there's people that collect sponsees like Pokemon.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be around that. And then I tried going to like the people my age. And it was like, my whole life I've had horrible anxiety about, I can't even think of the word right now. Horrible anxiety about what people were going to think of me. On stage, I'm more comfortable on stage in front of hundreds.
Me too.
Than just, you not, because I know you.
Yeah.
And I feel like, honestly, man, this is great. I love speaking to you.
Damn right. Man.
But like going into a room and seeing all these people that knew each other, that were happy to see each other, that didn't know me, and I'm like, well, how am I going to introduce myself? How these people dress different than me? They look different than me. Before I know it, I'm in my head, not listening to anybody's message, and can't wait to get the fuck out of there. So it was one of those things where like, okay, I got to force myself. So I forced myself twice a week to go to 2 separate meetings that were once a week.
Were you going to the American Airlines Fellowship or the other one?
There was one at a church by Taco Bell.
Okay, so there's a line in the basic text or of my fellowship, and it talks about drugs weren't the problem, they were the solution. And I was listening to a podcast the other day that's got Steve-O from Jackass, and he said, and he's in the program, and he said, and I think he's got like 12 or 15 years, something like that. And he says, I never suffered from the disease of addiction until I stopped using. Yeah. He says, all the years that I was using, I was medicating the disease, because that's what my disease is centered around, is like anxiety, like feeling uncomfortable in my own skin, like judging my insides by your outsides, like, and just like losing every fucking time I do it, but it's like, but I've done that my whole life, in high school, in my own family, like through doing a 4-step, I went back and like, when did I start to feel this way? And then it was like, when I found drugs, I was able to breathe. Fuck, man, finally I feel rested and like content, so when I found alcohol was one of my first drugs that I did, and it was like, man, I want to do this every chance I get. I finally felt like I could talk and like be part of the world. Like I was able to be part of the world again, and it's like, and then you put the drugs down. I put the drugs down years fucking later, 33 years old, I'm finally clean. And it's like, all of that came back, all of it. And it was like, now I'm suffering from the disease of addiction again, and it's like, how do I cope with that? So it's like, what's the solution? Like, my solution has failed me. Like, the solution that I've been doing all these years has started creating more problems than it was curing. And now I'm left with a drug addiction coupled with the disease of addiction, because those are 2 separate things. You got drug addiction, and then the disease of addiction, or alcoholism, or whatever you want to call it. It's that dis-ease, it really is. But then it's like, how am I going to treat that? My treatment's no longer working. How am I going to treat it? So everybody treats it differently, man. But when I started coming to meetings, I felt the same way, man. Like I was like, some people share like, oh, I finally felt at home when I started coming to meetings, and I'm like, fuck, I didn't feel at home.
Hell no.
I felt really out of place, really self-conscious, fucking terrified. Like, what are y'all even talking about? You're smiling. That's fucking weird. You're trying to hug me or shake my hand. Like, get the fuck away from me. Like,
she was opposite for me. Nobody would come around. Like, I would try to stand in groups and talk to people. And they'd be like, "Oh, hey."
I would love to take you to, if you're ever open to it, man. I would love to take you to some meetings that I go to.
I would
in town.
love to go to certain meetings.
They're fantastic, man.
My wife asks me all the time, like, 'cause like I am stressed a lot,
dude. I would love to introduce you to my people, man. I have a great network of dudes and girls that are just fucking awesome, man.
Yeah,
and like very welcoming and. You know, it really depends on where you go, man. And it's like some people are real cliquey and it gets weird and they're like, you know, who is this new guy coming around? And then other meetings are like so welcoming of the new person and like really just like wrap them up in love and like, man, we're going out, please come with us, you know. And it's like, so I really try to be that, but you know, there's an old saying, man. It's like if you don't get comfortable clean, you're not going to stay clean.
Yeah.
You know, so whatever it takes for you to get comfortable clean, you got to do it, man. Because if we don't, we're going to go back to fucking using.
Right.
Who can stay uncomfortable all the fucking time? Nobody. We can't, man.
I mean, do you know what calms me down more than anything, man? I never thought I would be the person to say this. Like you just mentioned your friend. It was like, you know, his wife was his higher power.
Sure.
That little girl in there.
Yeah, man.
Bro.
Hell yeah.
Like it is.
You've committed your life to her.
Yeah.
You're damn right.
I don't know how long I'm going to be on this earth. I mean, you know, I'm sure something's going to come back to bite me in the ass. But until then, like, it's a legacy. Like because of her, there will be more of us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
hell yeah.
Yeah, like and it's they may not have my name, but they're gonna have my fucking DNA, son. And they're gonna be funny. And that little girl in there, man, like that is everything. Like whenever I have any moments of like I don't get around her when I have panic attacks. Like I'll go hide, and my wife knows what's up.
Yeah.
But there has been times like the other night, like she goes and sleeps in our bed at night. She just crawls up in there and crowds the fuck out of me. The other night I had I don't even remember what the dream was, but it was horrible. And I woke up hyperventilating. I couldn't go back to sleep. She was asleep and she just reached over and like just latched onto like one of like those Velcro monkeys that have the Velcro on their hands and just attached to me.
Wow.
Immediately my heartbeat went down.
Yeah, man.
Like it calmed, and it was just like, how did I get so lucky that this little human being that, I mean, honestly, I only had 5 seconds to do with making that kid. The wife did the rest. It was a quick lunch, bro. And they were like, she was like, oh, hey.
I love
it. How did this little human and my wife really like become... And my 2 stepsons, like their dads are sweet. When 16, they're both 6'1". Like I've known them since they were 8 and 10. Now they're 14 and 16.
Cool.
But it's like, how did I get so lucky to where these people chose me? You know, and I'll never let them down. And the fact that I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life, despite all the anxiety. It's all first world problems.
So do you have like they are first world, but problems nonetheless, like first world or whatever, man. Problems are problems. Pain is pain. I try not to minimize the shit that I go through. You know, like I'm, you know, working on 12 years clean, and I own a business, and you know, I'm pretty successful in my life right now. But man. Like when I go through tough shit, it's still tough shit, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, you know, and I'm grateful to have people that I can go to and talk to when I go through it, and they don't minimize it either. But you know, I just, you know, what I want to say is like, or what I want to ask you is, and I'm not, you're the one doing the podcast.
Oh, you're good, man.
But like, what do you have a friend group? Like, do you have like, people that are like not that are clean and that you kick it with? And
I have
just so you to have that identification or rapport.
So I have 3 brothers. One of them I knew since like way back in the day. The first time I met you, Shorty. He drinks every now and then, doesn't smoke weed, but doesn't like it. He's an old grumpy man now. Like he's the one that woke up. Him and my buddy Marco are the 2 that came over that morning and told me, like, you got to go to rehab or we're done. Like, we're done doing this. They're still 2 of my brothers to this day.
Hell yeah.
And the other one, Michael, who moved down here that I've known since just as long as the other 2 for 20-something years.
Wow. Awesome.
Like, and Michael, like, he'll smoke weed every now and then. Yeah. But it's not like he doesn't like drinking. He's very big. Like, he's a big guy.
Sure.
And he's like really looking in. Like, he's been reading psychiatry books and self-help books and really eating healthy. And he's all about mind, body, and spirit. Those are the people that I try to be around. Or the ones that understand, like, you're not perfect, but you have to put in the work to better yourself.
100%.
And let's talk about this work that I just did to better myself because I'm proud of it. I like those people that feel that pride.
That's right.
As far as like a clean community, the people that have been on this show mean a lot to me.
Damn right.
Last season, like with I asked Meredith about you before I knew you were you, because sometimes like people will in the location we're in, I don't like inviting some. Yeah. If I've never met the person, I'm not gonna have them over.
I get it.
Like Julia.
I love her.
Travis Mickle.
Yep, Travis is cool.
Kelly Gray, who runs the alumni.
So Travis I would love to my home group is tonight. I'm sure you got stuff going on, but every Tuesday night at 7:30 is my home group.
Yeah.
We go out to the home group at 7:30 to 8:30, and then we go out to eat at like El Cerro Grande every Tuesday night. Yeah. And it's just like something to do to get me out of the house. And
of course.
But I go, dude, with almost 12 years clean. I go to a meeting Monday night, Tuesday night. I go to the prison on Wednesday. Thursday, sometimes I'll go to one. Friday, I go to Literature Lover. Saturday, I go to Driftwood. Sunday night, like I almost go to a meeting every day of the week, just because. And it's not a social event. Granted, like I'm not there to like hang out with my friends. That's not a social event.
It's maintenance,
but I get to see my friends, and I get to talk about recovery, which I really love. I share in almost every meeting. I know motherfuckers get tired of hearing me talk. Are you one of them dudes? I'm one of those guys. I really just because I love recovery, man. I love it.
It's good.
It makes sense to me. It has saved my life, and I just love talking about it, man. Like I've spoke at conventions and I love it, man. It's like it's something that I really believe in.
I think I probably need? Like
anytime you want to. But, like I what I'll do since we're linked up now, like man, I'll like stay in touch. Like, hey man, like we're gonna go. Like Travis Mickle is putting on. He started that whole Front in Life thing, which is super cool. And he just put on an event a couple nights ago at I think it was Cameron Art Museum. But he's got a dance coming up, like an electronic music dance, sober rave or whatever. I just said it. NA's actually putting on a sober rave for it's going to be called the Not So Valentine's Day Dance. And so I got all kinds of lights and sound. I got a really nice sound system, smoke machines, and all kinds of shit. So I'm going to bring all my equipment out and help kind of like cater that. I always do. I love it, man. So
well, these people have been like when I started this, I was doing nothing. For recovery, and I had all this like equipment and skills to do. Like I teach the editing stuff for work, like and stuff like that. So I know how to do it professionally. And I'm like, why am I not doing anything? I finally got out of my own way and started it, and I've met so many great people, so many people that I've never met, that I wouldn't have met, that have really kind of made me hone in and do a lot of self-care.
That's so cool, man.
And it's I'm not against going out. I do need to go to more meetings.
Well, it's cool that what you've done is like you've wrapped your life around recovery.
Yeah.
Like this is what you've done to like keep the conversation going and to talk about it and I think that this is what we were talking about earlier, whatever you're willing to fully commit your life to. And this is what you're doing, and like I love that you've created an environment for other recovering people to like have the conversation. You know, our company, the construction, I'm a general contractor. I have 2 construction companies. The one company that I got, my wife started about 24 years ago, and then we went into business. It was just me and her. We went into business about 8 or 9 years ago together, and we employ recovering addicts, people that are new coming in. Yeah, dude. So we actually about 4 years ago we have a TV show out on YouTube. It's called Rehabbed. Actually, nice. It's on YouTube. It's on the Design Network. The Design Network filmed it. We had 5 episodes, and it's basically talking about, it's called rehab. So we're rehabbing homes and rehabbing lives.
Yeah.
So my wife's got 25 years in the program. I've got coming up on 12, and but I don't think, and it's construction work, man. Like, and it's like almost a prerequisite to be a construction worker to drink or to do drugs, So it's like we've created an element that's way different than that, and because of that, like, man, our business has been so successful because people trust us, man. Like we're well put together. We got uniforms, clean cut. No one's like out there acting a fool or like showing up hungover or high or stuff getting missing from job sites. And it's like we don't have that, and it's But I think it's important, man, that like, because we work, 80% of our lives away? Yeah. So it's like what we do for a living and our hobbies, like they have to kind of coexist, and we have to do what we love or we're like fucking wasting our lives, man.
No, I completely agree with you, man.
I love it.
I'm kind of in the way of like, man, I've got to do one thing I don't want to do every day for money because it's money that my family needs.
Hell yeah.
But also it's like there's so many different passion projects.
That's why they call it work, right?
Yeah, they do. Man, I've had so much fun talking. I got to ask you these questions.
Sure. Yeah.
What is one characteristic that you still have from the old Shannon that still pops up every now and then to be like, hey, oh shit, there's that?
God, full transparency, So I'm not a thief. I don't lie, but God, I can't believe I'm going to say this. So, monogamy, right? Being with one woman. So part of my disease, I believe, is I have a disease of more. Mm-hmm. If it feels good, do it. More. More. I want more. I want more. I want more. So like when I got married, it was like I had never been in a monogamous relationship, every girlfriend, every, relationship, or it wasn't even a relationship I was taking girls hostage, whatever, like not literally, but like, but like that's been tough, that's been to not think about it, to not desire other women. Has been like a conscious effort for me, man, and it's like because like like instant gratification, it's like I want to feel good now. That girl's looking at me, she thinks I'm cute. That makes me feel good. It sets off those receptors. Or this girl doesn't want anybody to talk to, but she'll talk to me. There's that validation again. It sets off those receptors. So it's like to be hyper vigilant and to see that stuff. But that's what's been tough for me, man. Yeah. Is like that's been the hard one to get out of my head, and I think it's natural. I don't think there's anything wrong with me. I think as a human being, like we find other people attractive, and it makes us feel good when they find us attractive. Right. So there's the line in the sand you don't cross, but it's like when I go out seeking validation. Right. When I go out like going out of my way to see if this person thinks I'm good looking, or were they talking about, you know,
being
what I mean?
wanted is an addiction.
100%.
Yeah.
So that's the one.
And normally the follow up is, well, what triggers that? But that's an obvious answer
Right,
on that one. What do you do to cope? Or to, like, what coping skill have you learned to kind of either chew it back or set your mind back?
I mean, so, you know, it's cool that we're talking about this, and I'm not telling you that, like, I struggle with the desire to use drugs, because I don't, man. That desire has been removed. I don't ever obsess about that, man. Every now and then I'll think about it, or I'll smell weed, and I'm like, damn, man, that smells good.
Right.
Or, like, I smell someone who's been drinking, and it makes me, like, you know, but I don't obsess about it, you know. Right. I don't at all, ever. But every now and then the thought will cross my head. So it's cool that what I struggle with is, like, you know, something else that's kind of normal for most humans. But I really, like, I talk to God. I try to, like, find gratitude in my marriage and my relationship, you know, which, you know, we're on some tough times right now, not because of anything like that, you know, but, you know, when we were together, it would be like, you know, I would remember, like, I would bring her flowers, and I would see that smile on her face and how happy it would make her. And I think about all of, like, you know, so I try to use what I've learned in the program to help me in all areas of my life. And it says, one of the things we say is that a grateful addict will never use. Like, if I'm grateful, I will never use again. You know, so it's like, okay, how do I apply that to these defects of character that I use to seek instant gratification? So it's like, can I find gratitude in my marriage so I don't use something else to make me feel good about myself, right? Can I find gratitude in her, in our life, in our company, in the stuff that we built? So I find gratitude, and I think about the look on her face and how happy, and our love. And then it's like, I'm grateful for that. And I don't want this moment of feeling good to take away that. My buddy Jacob would say, think about this, because when we first got married, I was, like, really struggling with, like, God, man, like, monogamy was like, I had never had to do it, you know. And he said, look, man, think about this. What do you want now versus what do you want the most? And I was like, fucking blew me away.
That's huge.
Blew me away, because what we get caught up in is, like, what do I want right now? But what do I want the most? What I want the most is to, like, care about this person, have her care about me, grow old together, know each other, respect each other, have, like, this partner in life, man, versus
the perfect team.
Oh my God, versus, like, this girl who I know nothing about, who thinks I'm cute.
And or, like, probably not going to be as cool as you originally think.
No. And then the guilt and the shame that I know will come if I did something stupid, you know. So it's like, it's not worth it, man. Yes. So I'm grateful for what I got, and that's what I want the most. What I want now is irrelevant, and if I need diversity, then I will take care of that myself. You know, I will put on something on the TV and take care of myself. Like, you know, and I don't mean to get so graphic on this podcast.
No, you're good.
But, you know, it's like, you know, I will take care of myself. I won't go outside my marriage. And, you know, but it's crazy, like, what we suffer from, and not just as addicts, but as human beings, man. Like, dealing with desire, dealing with lust, dealing with defects of character, dealing with all this stuff that is so natural and it's human to struggle with, but nobody talks about it, man. So it's like, you know, I had a guy. So this guy I was working for, man, and I think we're running out of time, but this guy I was working for, and I was talking to him about it, and I was like, I feel so guilty that I even think about other women like that, man. I said, like, you know, every girl I look at, it's like the first thing I think to myself is, like, would I or wouldn't I?
Right.
Like, how much of a pig am I to, like, think like that? And he said, dude, think about back in, like, biblical times. He says, men had multiple wives, 3 or 4 wives, and it was our job to procreate. It was our job to spread our seed and procreate the human race, right?
Yeah.
women would have one husband, and they would take, so 3 or 4 wives would only be with one man. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, we were bred to like to
lust,
to spread our seed, to like, and we can ejaculate multiple times a day. Women can have one baby every 9 months. Like, it's like, so it's in our DNA. Over time, we've evolved. It's not okay, but it's like, to still have those urges is natural. So I kind of had to like find some forgiveness for the thoughts that I was having. Mm-hmm. Know that, like, hey man, what I think about isn't going to ruin my life. It's what I do behind my thoughts. My thoughts won't hurt me.
It's about the actions.
It's my actions,
thoughts,
man.
Can't hurt.
100%.
Well, thoughts can lead to pain, but
they can.
Self-awareness of those thoughts will keep that in check.
But to see how the disease of addiction manifests itself in other areas, shopping, sex, eating, chasing money, validation, recognition, like money, property, and prestige, like all of this stuff that my disease can latch onto and like get hyper focused on because it makes me fucking feel good.
Yeah,
it's like, so now this is what Steve-O was talking about. We're suffering from the disease of addiction. Now I'm dealing with the disease. The drugs and the alcohol, like none of that stuff is masking any. Now that the drugs and alcohol are gone, it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Now I'm dealing with all these other like aspects of my disease and how it can manifest itself. So it's interesting.
Dude,
yeah.
That's an amazing answer. All your answers are pretty. I'm so happy of the man you become.
Thanks, dude.
I really am,
Thank
man.
you, man.
Last question.
Sure.
This is my favorite. Just like when you have a dream at night, it could last for like 3 months in the dream, but it's 10 seconds in real life. You can think about your entire life in 10 seconds as well. Thinking about from as far back as you can remember to right this moment, what are you the most proud of?
Honestly, being able to stay clean. That was the hardest. So after Alex died, I went to prison for the first time, and I went to that program for the first time when I was 19, 18 or 19. No, I went to WTC when I was 15. I've been trying my whole life to stop and stay stopped, and it's like I've never been able to, and like the biggest accomplishment of my life has been me stopping and staying stopped and finding a new way to live, and then dedicating my life to helping other addicts, man, and like sponsoring guys and doing service work and going to the prison. Like it's the most thing that I'm proud of. Runner up to that would be our business, like employing other addicts, me getting my general contractor's license, and like really like being successful, man. Like I know it's not all about the money and the success, but it's like for me to be able to, I bought 2 houses in Costa Rica last year, man, for a dope fiend, no good junkie, addict, alcoholic, to be able to like pull myself up out of the gutter with the help of the program and to like find some success and financial security in my life. I never thought I'd have that. I have struggled my entire fucking life, man. Yeah. I came in with a trash bag full of clothes, literally, man, not even a fucking suitcase. Had a black bag full of clothes. I own 3 houses. I have I pulled up in an F-350 diesel,
It's a
big
ass truck.
It's a big ass truck, and all that stuff is material shit.
Right.
And people's like, and material stuff doesn't matter.
It's not about that,
but it does matter some. Like I'm so grateful for it.
The
man.
validation of success outweighs the material thing.
Yeah.
So coming where you came from and looking at it saying, look good. What I've done.
Damn right, man.
Fuck yeah, it feels good.
It feels good, man. And like, so I'm recovering from a state, like I'm not only recovering from drug addiction, but I'm recovering from homelessness. I'm recovering from like codependency, always needing somebody to take care of me. Like I'm recovering from all these other things, and it's like when I'm able to take care of myself and provide for myself and like And like I'm a recovering codependent. I'm a recovering fucking homeless addict living on the street. You know, like literally living on the street, eating out of the Burger King dumpster, man. Hell yeah, I'm proud that this is what. But I didn't do it alone. Like I don't take all the credit for it. Right. So like my ego is so much in check. Like I don't think that I did this on my own. But I played a huge part in it. God played a huge part in it. You can't
get there without you paying a huge part.
100%.
You know? Man. So that's the pride. That's when people... That's a great answer, man. When people ask me what, you know, it's the same thing. Being able to turn my life around, having the self-awareness and the strength to take that first step. But then being able to take a second. It's not hard. It's hard to take a first step. Not so hard to take a second, but it's fucking hard to keep walking. You know?
It is.
And
it's tough, man. It's tough that, like, the society, like, everybody drinks or everybody smokes weed.
Everywhere.
You know, and it's like, for us to, like, stay and carve our own path, man, and walk this sober line or this clean line. You know, my wife says it all the time, man. It's like, the more disciplined we are, the more freedom we get. Like, the more disciplined I am in my life, the doors open wide, man. I can do whatever the fuck I want to do as long as I stay disciplined and walk this path. Once I start becoming undisciplined and living, you know, erratically and doing shit I'm not supposed to do, the fucking path narrows, man. And I can do less and less. But it's like, discipline equals freedom, man. It really does, dude.
It's somebody who, Nick Rapsiopi said it last season. He's like, discipline because it is the truest form of self-love.
It is. Oh, I love that, man.
Yeah, it's a great line, you know, dude.
Hell yeah.
I love seeing you. This made my week. We made my day.
Yeah, man.
So good to see you, brother.
Good
Thank
to
you
see
for
you.
doing this, man.
Yeah, I'll give you a dap too, though.
Yeah. I appreciate you.
Yeah.